I would now like to invite our featured panelists today to join me on stage to take a seat. Now, for the past 10 years that I've emceed this event, we've had pretty much the same setup. We've had a keynote speaker, just one person talking about a particular topic. And as we considered different ways to address today's foreign direct investment theme, it dawned on us that we could gain better perspective by hearing from more than one example of global investment. After all, St. Louis is home to more than 300 foreign-owned companies, but we didn't think our stage was going to be large enough for 300. So we have these four gentlemen with us today who have some interesting experiences and things to share with us today. Starting to my immediate left, we have Fernando Mercé, who is President, Latin America and Caribbean for Swiss-owned Nestle Purina. Then we have Antonio Santos, Vice President, Operations and Site Management, America for French-owned bioMérieux. Derek Bartlam is Head of Research USA for German-owned KWS. And Greg Gorman is Vice President, Business Planning and Development for Japanese-owned Nidec Motor Company. Would you welcome all of them to the stage today? Now, Fernando, let's start with you because I think most St. Louisans are very familiar with Purina and Nestle Purina, N-E-S-T-L-E-S. Do you want to remember that? Is that just me? Those chocolate commercials. So we know about Nestle Purina, we think, but could you tell us a little bit more about your role there and what benefits foreign ownership is bringing to the St. Louis area?
Thanks, Debbie, and thanks to the WTC St. Louis for having us here. We're super excited. I'm super excited to be here representing Nestle Purina. So Nestle is a $90 billion global organization in the food industry. So we take many of the agricultural products that we were referencing before and transform them into value-add products. And in the US, many people know Nestle from chocolate, but we also own brands such as DiGiorno, Stouffer's, Häagen-Dazs, Boost, a wide range, as well as Purina. We have about 300,000 employees worldwide, and so I'm glad that everybody here was enjoying a super meal. Hopefully there were some Nestle products in there. In terms of the benefits of bringing Nestle and Purina together, obviously, Nestle has a global footprint. It's a globalized economy. And I think that any company that can bring more of a global perspective or footprint to any organization in St. Louis can benefit not only that organization in St. Louis, but the whole city. We've been able to, since the acquisition a little over 10 years ago, to more or less double the Purina business worldwide, taking technologies and expertise that were present here in St. Louis, so we've been able to take that worldwide. We've moved some businesses over here, so my own business was headquartered in Caracas, Venezuela. Now it's here in St. Louis, been here for about a decade. We have about, in the head office here, about 100 people from all over Latin America. And then also because of the capabilities that Purina had in the region and also some of the inherent benefits of the St. Louis region in terms of costs, in terms of schools, availability of schools, in terms of infrastructure, Nestle has also over the last 10 years moved, for example, global IT to the St. Louis area, which is hundreds of jobs. So I think having that global exposure of a corporation and also combining that with the expertise that we had here in the St. Louis area, Purina did, has benefited. It's a win-win situation. It benefited Nestle Purina, and it has benefited St. Louis, I think, in a pretty important way.
Thank you. Now, Antonio, not everyone in the room is probably as familiar with bioMérieux, and some of us may not have known how to pronounce it until today. But tell us a little bit about what your company does and why St. Louis?
Thank you, Debbie. And yeah, you're right. I think most, except for one table there of troublemakers, the people around won't know bioMérieux, but very well said and very well pronounced. Not an easy name to pronounce. So bioMérieux, a little bit about us. It's a $2 billion company, privately owned, and some of you had the distinct pleasure of meeting Alexandre Mérieux, our CEO. We're publicly traded in the stock exchange in Paris. What brought us to St. Louis was an acquisition. Back in '88, Alain Mérieux acquired the Vitec Systems from McDonnell Douglas. That's where the current facility is still at. There's a great story there. This was developed as a joint product with NASA. We built on a great platform, make it into a global life-saving technology. And now you saw in the short movie, Sean was actually showing one of the cars that we make in St. Louis. We make about 100 million of those every year, more than that actually. And we ship most of it outside of the US. So as an example of export out of the Midwest, we're there, we're it, and it's not ag, I'm sorry about that. It's a medical device focused on diagnostics. So that's bioMérieux in a nutshell. We've been growing in St. Louis, invested over $100 million in the last 5 years, created additional 200 jobs, most of them R&D and high-paying jobs in manufacturing. And that has been a great success story for bioMérieux.
All right, thank you. And I think it's great to hear as well, because a lot of St. Louisans hear the word acquisition and they cringe, but this is great examples of how acquisitions can actually help to grow jobs here in St. Louis. Now, Derek, KWS, not here because of an acquisition or a merger, but an actual direct investment here in the United States. So if you could share a little bit about what KWS does and why you chose the St. Louis area.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Debbie. And it's great to be part of the panel today, and we'd really like to thank the World Trade Center for this opportunity and for the recognition for our company. It's a little bit easier to say, KWS. We got around, KWS stands for the name of the town where it was initially established about 150 years ago. We got around the difficulty of naming KWS. So KWS, we're a plant breeding company that each year develops several hundred new varieties of crop seeds for the farmer. I'd say that we have about 5,000 employees across the world, and we're still very proud to be managed in a family-orientated and independent way, even after 150 years, and despite the fact that we are present in about 70 different countries. So we are a research-focused organisation. I think it wouldn't be a surprise to everybody here that the US is a very strong source of innovation across the world. And it was very obvious to us to establish a facility somewhere in North America. So we evaluated a lot of different locations, a very German approach with a lot of factors about what would be important, very systematic. And initially St. Louis wasn't high on the radar for us, but the local civic and regional leaders came together, really helped us understand the advantages of St. Louis. And based on the infrastructure in place here, you've got the universities, you've got the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center. You've also got the talent here. I think it's one of the regions with the most concentration of plant science PhDs. And more importantly, there's a long-term commitment to the region, so that long-term potential for employment talent for that next generation as well. And something that we found really unique, which was the community here of the leaders and how they come together with that passion to make build this region as an ag tech innovation region and do it in a really truly collaborative manner. So at the beginning I actually had trouble, we met of course a lot of people, and I had trouble distinguishing who was with the Regional Business Council, who was with World Trade Center, who was with, because you talk to one person and the other message comes to you straight away. So there's really a unique community here that it wasn't just to sell us, to get us here, but it has continued, and we're really happy to be part of the community here. And I think we made a good decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Derek. Now, Greg, Nidec is unique among this group because it is a Japanese-owned company instead of European. Can you give us a little bit of background on how Nidec ended up in St. Louis and where you're located?
Well, so Nidec is a Japanese-owned company based in Kyoto, Japan. But we're really a global business. We're about $12 billion of sales. We're focused exclusively on electric motors and the controls that control those motors. Where we've started historically was in the small precision motors, and we've moved into new areas where we make motors that would be not the size of this room, but in most rooms that you would see, we make some pretty sizable, large-sized motors. And so that has expanded over the years. About 10 years ago, we started in our core business was the small motors. So I have an example. I don't know if it's visible here, but this is the smallest motor
It's not even
that we
visible
make.
here.
Yeah. So in your cell phone, you would have a vibration motor. That's what is this little vibration motor here that we put into those products. Also in a hard disk drive space, we have 85% global market share for the hard disk drive spindle motor, which is a key component for hard disk drives. And we've taken the technologies that we've developed there, this brushless motor technology, and applied it into new applications. The business that I'm most involved with right now is appliance commercial industrial motors. And that business unit was actually built through acquisitions. And the large platform acquisition that we did in 2010 was of the Emerson Motors and Controls business here in St. Louis. And so about 6 years ago, we established this ASIM business platform around that business, and we have continued to grow it. It was $800 million of sale at that point. Today, we're almost at $4 billion of sales. And we continue to grow through expansion, through acquisitions, but also through organic growth. And we're very happy to be based here in St. Louis. We look to continue to grow the presence here.
All right, thank you. We have so much to talk about and so little time, so I'm going to kind of throw out a two-part question here. One is that for those of you who have been attending Growing Global over the years, we talked a lot about being more global and bringing in more foreign-born, and we talked about the Mosaic project, and I don't think that necessarily around the country people think of St. Louis as a particularly global place, but as we can see on stage and around this room, it is ever more so, and with the comments by the mayor and the county executive about the Census Bureau showing that we are the fastest growing, at least in the past few years, so those efforts have paid off. So I would wonder, from the four of you on this panel, when coming here, whether you are foreign-born or whether you work for a company owned by a foreign entity, is that an important part of a company coming here, that we have a very diverse and global population? And second part, and you can answer either, what could St. Louis be doing even better to make more companies want to invest? And I'll start with you, Fernando.
For us, it's super important. I mean, if I just look at my group, we have about, well, everybody's from Latin America, but half of the folks are from Mexico, and the other half are a mix of Brazil, Venezuela. So as they come into the community, finding a community organization such as the Mosaic Project, of which I've been a member for the last couple of years, is incredibly important because generally people move in with their families. They're looking for a community that's going to be welcoming. They're looking for good educational options. They're looking for sort of basic, especially coming from Latin America, basic sort of security and personal safety is really important because of the situation in Latin America. So St. Louis offers all of that, and what we find is initially people say, "Oh, you're going to St. Louis, where is that?" It sounds a little weird. You know, the truth is, after most of my team, after being here for, let's say, 12 months, they don't want to leave. And I think that's the power of St. Louis, and that's a little bit of what we all have to do a better job of communicating. You know, within Nestle today, or within Purina today, that communication has been done because we've been doing it for a decade of bringing people here, and so the message has gone out, but there is obviously more work to be done. What could the city be doing better, or the St. Louis area? You know, to some degree, things like the Mosaic Project, I think, are incredibly important. Controlling, or not controlling, but communicating more the strengths of the city and not allowing social media to take control over everything that leaves the city in terms of communication and what the city is all about is important. To me, when you look at educational options here, the options are great and really strong. I think a healthier, stronger downtown will always help because people around the world tend to be more urban-centric. We talked a little bit about the airport. I heard that Southwest is doing some direct flights to South America soon from St. Louis. Right? We also mentioned a direct flight to Europe and direct flight to Asia.
Yeah.
Flights everywhere.
Tokyo? That would be.
I told these guys not to get me up here. But, transportation is important, education, safety, and the PR the city does to the outside world, we got to make sure we have a proper balance from what social media spreads versus what we can communicate, what is the true essence of the city.
All right, Antonio, how important is that diverse community, and what would be the one thing that you think St. Louis really needs to address?
I'm ready to sign on the flight to Europe. Let's do that right now.
No pressure, no pressure.
No, I think to build on what Fernando just said, the branding of the St. Louis is important. I think there's a misperception about St. Louis. Not for you guys, you know St. Louis, so you don't even understand what I'm talking about. But people from outside, if we're trying to bring people in, and not only from overseas, I mean, there's always a barrier that you have to win in those cases, but even bringing people from the east or the west coast, they Google St. Louis and, I mean, just try it. You don't get a lot of good news. So the branding of I call it the region, I think it's an important aspect. In terms of education in the area, I think, honestly, been living all over the world, and we have some of the best colleges, the best universities in the world here, so I think we're doing a great job there. A little plug for the Webster friends over there, but a great university all over the world also.
Great high schools.
Great high schools, which they ask you a weird question when you come. Which high school did you go to? It's strange, but it's okay. So in terms of what can we do to bring more people from outside, I think the branding aspect is the important one. Other than that, I mean, I lived between Philly and New York, so it's New Jersey. And this place beats it by far.
All right, and for Derek, we were talking before this started, and you mentioned our Midwestern friendliness. So while we have to work on rebranding ourselves to the rest of the country, one thing we shouldn't probably change would be the fact that we are a very welcoming community.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to interrupt you, and it took a lot of energy not to. This is my personality. But I think there's also another layer on top of this with, when we're talking about the globalization, it's really the diversity as well. It's not just globalization for the sales and for the company. And as a research organization, where does innovation and new ideas and new directions come from? It comes from bringing people together from different backgrounds and from different experiences. And that's why, for us, the diversity is really important. Yeah. So us bringing our location here was about, let's not get the people to where we are in Germany. Let's go to where that diversity is and bring that into the company. So we very deliberately, and we worked with a fantastic architecture firm here, Krishna, we very deliberately, though, did not show them any design of what our building looked like. We did not want a clone of what we had there. We wanted that unique stamp here. And I think what you can do, apart from getting on social media to help with the messaging, what everyone here can do is actually be a little bit more intentional about that global viewpoint and leverage that Midwestern spirit. What we saw, where everyone comes together and says, yes, there's a lot of passion in this community there. Everyone comes together, and you'll see, even, there's another company that's partially a competitor of ours, Monsanto, but even they were welcoming of us coming here. So you've got the BioSTL, different parts of the community coming together as one to sell it as an integrated location, and that was something that was very attractive for us. We weren't going to come here and be a location out in the middle of some trees, but part of the community with a very short ramp up. So that's what I would like to add for what you could do. Thanks.
All right. And Greg, I know that you have lived abroad as well, so you spent a lot of time in Japan, and your wife is Japanese, is that right? So
that's correct.
When I remember the first time I went to Japan, it was almost like being plopped in another planet. You know, like you can find your way through if you're in Venezuela, but Japan, it can be very overwhelming, and I imagine it must be the same way when somebody from Japan moves here, or no?
No, you're absolutely right. It was a big change for the people who initially came out. We did not bring over a lot of Japanese executives, but the people that we did bring over for corporate governance perspective, they were very welcomed by the St. Louis area. I think that that is a huge plus that St. Louis offers, this welcomingness. And we were very surprised. I did not come out in 2010. I came out 3 years ago. And at that time, we did not know a lot about the connections, but we were very quickly introduced to, there is a thriving Japanese community that's here in St. Louis. There's a fantastic Japanese language school. There's a Japan-America Society. There's a lot of touch points between St. Louis and Japan that I didn't know about to begin with. And, you know, it all started, I think, with the Botanical Garden, with this Japanese festival that they have every Labor Day. And so the amount of relationship, the sister cities that St. Louis has is a very impressive thing. We have a facility in one of the sister cities of St. Louis, in Sua. It's a manufacturing facility. I also found out that Lyon is also a sister city of St. Louis. Through this new acquisition, we will also have a facility in Lyon. So I think that those partnerships are very important for St. Louis to continue. Yeah.
And what would be the thing that St. Louis should do better to make sure that we have more foreign direct investment here?
Well, I think we've heard a lot of this. I share very much all the comments that were up here, but education is very important. The nature of our business is an engineering-driven business, and having close connections with the various different universities in the region is critical to identifying the new engineering talent that we need for the future. I would also say that having that global mindset, you know, it's all about, you know, think global but act local. There is a lot of that here in St. Louis. You know, we have 100,000 employees in NEDEC Group. In the ASIM business platform, which is stationed here in St. Louis, we have 25,000 employees. They're spread out all over the world. And we need people and managers who can interface with these different operations in the Far East, in Latin America, in Europe, all around the world.
All right, and since we put the Southwest guy on the spot earlier,
He left.
he ran away. Not to put you all on the spot, but if you want to break any news today, if your companies are planning to add anyone or any growth you want to talk about, feel free, or not. We can leave that a surprise. Just send me a news release. I want to thank you all so much for being up here. I know it was kind of a weird request. We want you to sit up and be on a panel discussion in front of a group of about 800 people, but didn't they do a fantastic job? We want to thank all four of you so much for taking the time to do this today, and we wish all of your companies and your families continued success. But before we let you go, we actually have some gifts for you, and this is really cool. These are glass bowls from Third Degree Glass Factory that were specially made in the unique colors of your company's country headquarters: Japan, France, Germany, and Switzerland. Aren't those awesome?
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our 2016 World Trade Center St. Louis Growing Global event. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today. Please feel free to take the centerpieces home, take the chocolates home, and we will see you next year.